fear or resist, but as a gift. Join us the second Wednesday of every month at 11 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. Subscribe, share, and start your journey to mastery at johnjmurphy.org.
What if Sanctuary wasn't just a place, but a way of living? Tune into the Sanctuary Network every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern with me, Mary Ellen Popick, for inspiring conversations featuring thought leaders, healers, authors, and everyday seekers, plus voices from the Sanctuary Marketplace, spotlighting the community that makes this movement thrive. This isn't just a show, it's your sanctuary. Visit thesanctuarynetwork.com for more information.
Step into a new era of leadership. With Mindful Leadership, Transforming Lives with me, Singh. Tune in every Tuesday, noon Pacific time on transformationtalkradio.com, where purpose, mindfulness, and passion converge to redefine what it means to lead in today's world. Each episode is your gateway to transformation. The world needs better leaders. Become one. Your leadership journey starts here. Visit singhpowerupcoach.com. Don't just lead, transform, join the global movement.
I'm Tristan, a shaman, astrologer, and human design reader. I help unravel spiritual ideas to create change and growth in your life. Whether you are just beginning or need a knowledgeable best friend with the next phase of your journey, I'm here to help. Think of me as your pragmatic shaman bestie. I work with high-vibe, lovely people like yourself in personalized sessions that will leave you with a sense of clarity that energizes you to make impactful change. Connect with me, your pragmatic shaman bestie, at musingsandmodalities.com.
Hi there, Anahata Roach, the Crystal Coach here. Do you have things that you do and respond to or feel triggered by that you have no idea why? Whatever that is, whether it was something that you are even conscious about or you actually have a memory of, there is in your body stored programs and trauma that an emotional clearing will help you unlock. It's called the spiral, and it is one of the most amazing clearing modalities I've ever come across. If you'd like to know more about the spiral and this wonderful modality that has helped so many people, including myself, please go to my website, The Crystal.
Hi, I'm John J. Murphy, and I welcome you to the Change Mastery Show with my co-host, Dr. Pat. Together, we invite you to think differently about change, not as something to fear or resist, but as a powerful opportunity for growth, empowerment, joy, and life mastery. My vision? To help millions of people shift from victimhood to leadership, from ego to spirit, and from hesitation and resistance to flow. This is an opportunity for you to get out of your own way and experience life with more courage, confidence, humility, and higher purpose. Get ready. The Change Mastery Show starts now.
Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Pat, and I am so excited about this show. I want to just welcome all of you to the Change Mastery Show, but I'm especially excited about what John has to say about this. For first and foremost, you should know something. Mastery is what John does, what he shows up in the world as. Not just for you as an individual, but let's say your company. He's been a consultant. Actually, he's had the courage to be a consultant way more years than I have. But today's show is especially important. It's thinking about, what does aging gracefully mean? What does that mean? What are the critical inputs and the desirable outputs? And so when you think about this, why is it we can see or reflect on some people, look into their eyes, and never think about their age? And as a matter of fact, you're going to hear today what some of the things are you can do. John, this is an especially important conversation for so many people. And, you know, I had a friend say to me once, I didn't have any wrinkles until I lost my job. And it didn't make any sense to me, because the job was very stressful. But what were they saying? I didn't have any wrinkles since I lost my job. I mean, couldn't even put it together, and I was honestly afraid to ask. But one day I went back and I asked her, And what she was able to say to me was, the job was my life. It was more than job. It fulfilled me. So I don't know about what the self-talk she gave herself, because to be honest with you, I actually didn't want to hear it. I don't want to hear any of it. So let me ask you this question. On your journey of discovery to who you are and what you do, you recently had your internal age measured, and it revealed something to you. And I'm not going to tell everybody what it revealed, but I would love for you to explain what that process is and what motivated you to look at that, because I am totally interested in that.
Yeah, well, this is a deep story, Dr. Pat, because I grew up a competitive athlete, and I was into nutrition to some extent. Actually, ate a lot as a football player, and exercise and things like that. Thinking I was getting it all right, and as a young person, it doesn't matter as much as it does when you get older. I later discovered then that a lot of the things were marketed to as healthy are actually not healthy at all. And even some of the exercise and training techniques that we've been told are healthy and helpful aren't. So it was a real shift for me to discover that some of the foods I was eating and the exercise and training things that I was doing are actually counterproductive. And I'll explain some of that more in this show. But what really triggered it, I've been a business consultant for going on 38 years now. And in the year 2000, my father got very ill and passed
Mm,
actually from cancer and actually from chemotherapy.
mm,
Uh, that really got me thinking about like what's really going on with that, and are there alternatives to things like chemotherapy? And so I took my some of my business and change mastery skills into more holistic health. I went to conferences all over the country. I met with some of the top scientists and doctors in alternative therapies and discovered some fascinating things that famous people, I won't mention names, very famous people in this country were going to Europe for treatments because our system didn't
mm,
allow it or insurance wouldn't pay for it, things like that. And so I became very fascinated with. So in addition to my business consulting and teaching, I started to uncover all kinds of things. And my experiment was on me.
mm.
So it changed all kinds of things in my life. And these are therapies, and I'll explain more in this show, that a lot of people have never even heard of. And so, and a lot of it, it's not just food and exercise, which we're all told about, but it's things like the body's very electrical. So electroceutical therapies, and there's pharmaceutical and nutraceuticals. A lot of people I talk to have never even heard of electroceutical therapy.
Mm.
There's O2 oxygen training and oxygen therapies. Cancer cannot survive in a highly oxygen alkaline environment. It dies. Well, who knows that, right? And
Yeah.
so, having learned this in a painful way from my father, and then later in life, my mother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And so that got me even more focused into brain therapies and brain training, even something called neurofeedback, which I do every month. Neurofeedback is essentially a scientific, healthy way to exercise your brain so that you have better focus, more concentration, better memory, and you're just as sharp as a tack. So therapies like that people have never heard of that lead to this slowing, if you will, of aging. So, I like you said, I had my internal age measured not long ago, actually more than once,
Uh-huh.
and I'm essentially half my chronological age. I'm younger than two of my kids.
Yeah. I love this conversation. I love that you shared that. Now, people are probably wondering, what did he go do? How do I go do it? And let's talk about that for a little bit. Because, I've worked with you. So without even knowing that, I got a sense of it. And things that you and I have talked about offline. there's something that does happen. And when it does happen, it happens and you light up on the inside. I don't know a better way. You're going to explain this throughout the show, but you basically do light up on the outside. And I don't know how to explain it. I was playing on Saturday, and it's coaching, so you're really a mess. You've been coached, and you're a mess. When you're coaching, it is not about feeling sorry for you. It's about working you to the edge of what you can work. And a woman walked up to me, an Asian woman walked up to me, and she stopped me, and she just looked at me, and she just shook her head. So I thought, okay, I'm doing something wrong. That's just my personality right there. But she said, look, you're amazing. And then after about 5 minutes, she said, how old are you? And then she went on to say, you look maybe 50 and you play like a 20-year-old. And I just looked at her and didn't have time because now at this point, the coach is screaming at me, like, what are you doing? Get back on it, right? But I was struck by that moment. The only thing I could relate to, and I would love for you to talk about this, I was at a happy place. Even doesn't matter how badly I was being, I was at a happy place. Can you put together what you discovered about your research, about yourself, and about how these internal systems work with the external systems you just mentioned to help us all?
Sure, sure. Well, first of all, I'll start with mindset because it's the most important input, more important than nutrition and exercise. It's mindset. And so when people start telling themselves, well, I'm getting old, and aging sucks, and my left knee is bad, my right elbow, I've got a bad elbow. Your cells, and this is science now, this is proven, your cells are listening to you. They're listening to the mind. And if the mind is saying, you're getting old and you just can't do what you used to do, your body will respond. So a lot of people get that backwards. What's going on in their mind is what they're being told by their body. And so the body is like a car. It's used for getting around. It's while we're on this planet, it's our vehicle. And I happen to believe that that's not truly us. We are much bigger than that. Well, what I'll call capital S self, which is spirit. And, we existed before the body and we will exist after the body. Life is cyclical and circular. Everything in the universe is cyclical and in cycles. If you look around, seasons, the earth turns, everything, we turn around the sun. Everything scientifically is cyclical, but a lot of people think of their bodies as linear. We're born and we die and that's it. And then there's different faiths that tell you, well, no, actually you go to heaven or you go to hell and things like that. But if you start to think of the body as a vehicle and you want to take good care of it, like maybe you want to take good care of your house or your car or your bicycle, whatever, there are ways to do that for the body, but it all starts in the mind. And I always say to people, when somebody says, I changed my mind, who's the I actually saying that? And the problem is a lot of people, it's not that they're using their mind wrongfully, it's that they're not actually using it at all. The mind is using them. So, and the mind is the ego. So when we start attaching to the ego and believing we're the ego, the small s self, and we're not actually who we are, I like to say that we are king and queen of the kingdom, and the kingdom is the mind and the body. So the I who is saying I changed my mind is the I that's saying I can improve my body. I'm not the body, and I'm not the ego mind. I'm much more than that. And so I can use universal cosmic knowledge, if you will, energy. You talked about lighting up a room. Well, guess what your body is predominantly made of? Light, photons. When you go down to, you've got 50 trillion cells approximately in your body. By the way, each cell is doing 6 trillion things per second. You have a highly intelligent body. Within those cells are molecules, and within those molecules are atoms, and within an atom are photons, light particles, the stuff, so to speak, the entire universe is made of, light particles. But we get so deep into our own way, so dense, if you will, that rather than lighting up the room, we bring almost darkness into it and
Yeah.
gloom. And we all know people like that. And that mindset will, that toxic mindset will make your body toxic and acidic. You know, the body, think about the body this way too. It's like a swimming pool. It's predominantly water when you get to a more dense level. And if the body's predominantly water, will you go in a swimming pool that has the wrong pH balance, potential for hydrogen? You know, pools are measured every day for pH, which is an alkalinity acidic measure. And if it's too acidic, you start getting mold and you start getting algae and frogs show up and turtles, and you don't want to go swimming in that pool. So when you go to diet, you know, diet can be measured in terms of alkalinity, which would be like greens and plant-based meals. And acidic would be things like coffee, citrus, a lot of things we think are healthy, meat, dairy, all dairy. It's acidic forming. So what does acid do? You talked about somebody with wrinkles. What does acid do to skin? Yeah. What does it do to joints?
Yeah.
And you know, if you have a highly acidic, this is another measure you can take. If you can measure pH, it's one of the top measures in Japan. You know, we don't even measure it in the States a lot, but in Japan, pH is a critical measure because if it's out of balance and your pool is acidic, you're asking for disease. Okay, and I mentioned earlier that you know things like the cancers cannot survive in a high alkaline, high oxygen environment.
Yeah.
But this is so important, Dr. Pat, because like who knows this stuff? I didn't for most of my life
Yeah.
growing up. I thought get on the treadmill and run, you know, 5 or 10 miles or run whatever you can. That's actually not good for you
Yeah.
because that's aerobic exercise versus anaerobic. When you get on a treadmill and you're going to walk for an hour, you're training your body to store fat.
Wow.
What?
Right. I was just
What?
like, what?
Because your body and your cells have memory. And if you're training your body for the next big run, the next big event where it's going to have to rely on fat for
Mhm.
energy, in the off time, so to speak, it's building up fat for the next big run. Now, I didn't know that growing up, but a far more effective way to train is interval training, which is anaerobic, breathless, where you just go in short bursts. You're exercising what are called quick twitch muscles. And that's like a child. When you see a child, they have two speeds: stop and run as fast as you can. You know, I've got grandkids and they're just constantly running all over the place. They're doing intervals, so to speak. Run across the
Yeah.
room, that climb this ladder and slide down the slide and then do it again. And they're not on a treadmill, so to speak, just chugging along for an hour. So these are critical inputs to get desirable outputs. And I'll share a tool here in the
Yeah.
show that I use. It's actually a business tool I've used for decades to teach businesses how to improve their performance. But a lot of what I've learned is you can use these very same tools on your organization, which is your body. Think of the body like an organization. You've got all these cells doing different things, these systems, the endocrine system, the digestive system, the mental nervous system. You've the cardiovascular system. Our bodies are made up of systems, and you can get those systems to perform at a much better level. And you can use some of these business tools that I've been teaching for a long time on the body, and that's precisely what I've learned to do.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about what you said about the cellular level. I want to go back to two things because I'm like you. Something about our previous training, football for you, other sports, right? Me too. was a very high protein meat. I mean, that was the instruction, right? Back in the
Hmm.
day. I'm going to just say back in the day. I don't need to tell you how far back, right? But that's the way it was. I'm not saying that you shouldn't take in protein after you do a muscle training, but it's a far cry from the way athletes back then were told what to put in their body, when to put in their body. And we're learning more. So I would love for you to talk about this aging at the cellular level a bit more. Because look, my heart goes out to you. Losing a parent and then watching a parent go through or diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And I have two friends like that. And it just puts you in a space where you're looking at yourself. I hope you're looking at yourself. I hope y'all looking at yourself right now and saying, I can make this change. I can do this. So talk to us about the cellular level, how this is measured, because we have this mindset, John. I mean, we are bombarded with commercials. Honestly, I said to Linda, I love the Olympics. Are you kidding? I just love, I love sports, blah, blah, blah. But the commercials are making me a little bit berserko. They're just, it used to be you didn't have to do commercials because to go to commercial, you can mute it. No, not now. It's a split screen. And I just sat there the other day and I thought, I'm just going to get up and walk away. I'm going to do on demand. I'm just not going to watch it. Why? 90% of everything that came up was about you're too old, you're not well, your mind state is crap. And I just thought, that is not the messaging I want. So tell us about the cellular level and how our cells not only take in what we physically put in our body, but how they react. In my case, playing a sport, yes, yes, ping pong is a sport. Playing that sport and what it does to my, I don't know what it does, my happy gene.
Well, there you go. That's back to mindset. If you're happy playing ping pong, you're not only exercising your body and treating your car, so to speak, uh, well. That's it's like getting an oil change, so to speak. It's not a bad idea to do that with your car, but with your body, fitness, and by the way, ping pong is quick twitch muscles.
Yeah.
It's bursts.
Yes, it is.
It's bursts, and when it's anaerobic, you're actually resetting your metabolism. And with anaerobic interval training, you're burning fat when you're not exercising. That's a paradigm shift.
Wow.
You're not burning fat when you're exercising, you're burning fat when you're not. And by the way,
Wow.
it only takes 60 minutes a week to do that. 12 minutes actually of actual burst exercise and 60 minutes in total. So who
Wow.
doesn't have time to do that? So you can do interval training 3 days a week. You warm up for 20 minutes. In the 20 minutes, you do 12 minutes of, excuse me, 6 minutes. I do something called peak eight, and it's 8 bursts of 20 to 30 seconds in in less than 6 minutes, basically. And then you cool down and you do another burst. I do a lot of it in a swimming pool. I'll
Nice.
swim a 20 or 30-second lap fast, rest, and bring your heart rate back down. Do another burst, bring it back down. But you can do that on a treadmill. You can do it on a bicycle.
Wow.
You can do anywhere where you want to just do a burst. You can even do it standing in place. Just,
Wow.
go hard for 20 or 30 seconds, rest for 60 to 90 seconds, bring the heart back down, do it again, and you do it 8 times, 3 times a week, you're done.
And John, let
That's
me ask you about this too, because I want to go back to something you said about oxygen before when we started the
Mhm.
show. Uh, we have learned a lot, and yet we have not learned a lot because the general population doesn't know a lot about what you and I are talking about. But I want to go back to the oxygen part. Is it part of that kind of the bursting, those moments where you do that? and believe me, I love the swimming analogy because I'm gonna give that to Linda. She likes to swim.
Mhm.
But I love this. How does the cells react? How do the cells react to that? Do they
Sure.
go into the happy place?
Yeah, but let me share this bit of science
Okay.
that every chromosome in the body, trillions and trillions of chromosomes, at the end, if you think of that double helix ladder, that's twisted, people usually see that in, fifth grade science or something like that. The scientists have discovered, and these are Nobel-winning discoveries, have discovered that at the end of every chromosome are little caps, like they're like the plastic caps at the end of a shoelace. Think of it like that. And they're called telomeres. Some call them telomeres, but telomeres. And every time a chromosome or a cell splits, the telomeres get smaller and smaller and smaller, and that is now discovered to be aging. So we're aging every time our cells split and the telomeres get smaller. But there's an enzyme in the body called telomerase. It's a natural producing enzyme that feeds the telomeres so that they don't shorten as fast. And there are foods and supplements we can take to feed and improve the production of telomerase to improve the telomeres. Now, this is like, what is he talking about? But it's easily something you can research. And then
Mhm.
there are products, foods and substances. I take them every day to feed the telomerase, to feed the telomeres, to slow down aging. That's essentially what this
Yeah.
is. Some of those foods would be like beets. Now you have to be
Yeah.
careful with beets because there's a lot of sugar, and sugar is very
Hmm.
acidic. But there's, beet powder, there's
Beet
powders, there's all
powder.
kinds of, there's ashwagandha, there's
Hmm.
astragalus root, there's ginger, there's NAC, which is N-acetylcysteine. NAC is critical for the brain. I
Yeah.
mean, these are supplements. They're all natural. These are not drugs, and they are essential for feeding the body healthy nutrients. Back to the oxygen training, there's things you can do. We breathe 22% oxygen approximately at sea level. All right. And if you're up in the mountain, I was in Steamboat last week, you're breathing like 14% oxygen up at that
Wow. Yeah.
elevation.
Hmm.
And so hyperbaric oxygen chambers, which a lot of health centers are using now to treat things like brain damage, brain injuries, post traumatic stress disorder, um, ADHD, and certainly cancers because of that, the high oxygen. That's where you go in a chamber for an hour and you're under pressure, like you're scuba diving, so to speak. You got to clear your ears and all that. And you're fed 100% oxygen for an hour. You're just flooding your body with oxygen, and of course that's got all kinds of healing things. It's
Mm.
expensive though, and insurance won't cover it, uh, which is too bad. But I do
Yeah.
a different form, and the form I use, I call hyperbaric push. You're pushing it into your body, like it or not. There's a technology where you pull it in, and that's simply where you do intervals. We're back to intervals. You get on a bicycle with a mask, and you're hooked up to a big oxygen chamber, and you ride for a while at 86% oxygen to warm up. So you're gone from, 22% to 86. And then your technician flips a switch and you go down to 14%. Now it's like you're riding up in the mountains like super athletes train sometimes at high elevations
Hmm.
uh, for better performance to when they play at ground level. So, what you're doing then is you're starving your body of oxygen when you're at 14% and you're riding a bike or you're exercising. So you're burning up your oxygen reserves so that when they flip it back to 86%, your body is craving it. It's sucking the oxygen in. Oxygen, by the way, is essential for the brain.
Yeah.
And because when people with Alzheimer's, it's proven that there's a deficiency of oxygen. And the deficiency of oxygen in the entire body is going to age it faster. So you're feeding your body oxygen. It's one of the most important therapies you could do. Far more important than, running around the block, 10 times or something like that, or eating broccoli. Oxygen's key. Another key to the body is cold water therapy. They're like, what? Well, when I do cold plunges every week where I'm going into, 48-degree water,
Yeah,
sometimes 40-degree water, and, not just for a second or two, but I go in there for 15 minutes, doing intervals again, balancing that with an infrared sauna. So it's for an hour,
yeah,
you're hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, and it's cold. But what that's doing is it's decreasing dramatically inflammation at the deep internal level. And inflammation is known to be a root cause to all diseases. And so if you can reduce internal inflammation, not just, your ankle swells up because you twisted it, but I'm talking about inflammation,
yeah,
around your organs, that kind of thing. It's one of the top therapies known right now are things
yeah,
like oxygen therapy, and meditation is so critical because if your
yeah,
mind is going crazy and you're stressing out, you know what that does to your hormones, right? Your cortisol hormones, your adrenaline, and when that's overloaded, it's damaging your immune system and it's damaging your body. So the whole point of all of
yeah,
this is that if you're really interested in taking better care of your body and aging gracefully, there's tremendous amount of information and knowledge available. This is what I've done, and I was triggered by my father and then my mother.
yeah.
And injuries. I got beat up pretty good playing football, concussions, broken bones of all kinds. I had a C7, a disc removed in my neck, and I'm just all kinds of stuff. And if I didn't do something about that, I'd be limping around right now.
Oh, I know you and me both. I want to talk about limping around. We have a lot of people doing that. They don't know they're doing it. And, I want to go take a short break. Someone said to me the other day, who is listening to this show, I don't know what to do. I'm so far gone. I don't know what to do. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, John's going to share with you the holistic toolkit. For my friend and many of you out there, you can start. You don't have to do every single thing John just told you to do right now,
Mhm.
but you can start. The takeaway before we go to break, it's called oxygen. When we come back, we're going to talk about the holistic toolkit. And again, maybe John will talk a little bit more about alkaline. Let's take a short break, Emily. We'll be right back.
Have you ever faced a situation where you weren't quite sure how to handle it with poise, confidence, and grace? Of course you have. We all have. Well, tune into the Change Mastery Show with me, John J. Murphy. Together, my co-host, Dr. Pat, and I will introduce you to a different way to think about change, not as something to fear or resist, but as a gift. Join us the second Wednesday of every month at 11 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. Subscribe, share, and start your journey to mastery at johnjmurphy.org.
Are you ready to break free from blocks and trauma and step into true healing? Michelle Sinclair is a divine healer and spiritual teacher, guiding others through subconscious soul healing and the power of universal love. Her teachings, inspired by the Christ letters, reveal the vibrational impact of our thoughts, words, and actions, unlocking the key to transformation. Discover the divine laws of faith, cause and effect, and how they shape your reality. Begin your journey today at therealhealinginstitute.com. Hello, I'm Michelle, creator of the Real Healing Institute. I want to personally invite you to experience what I call subconscious soul healing. My work is about going deeper than the surface, finding the very beginning of what has been holding you back and healing it at the root. In our sessions together, which I hold over Zoom, you'll be gently and compassionately guided through a process that allows your mind and body to release what's been weighing you down. Whether you're struggling with anxiety, depression, past trauma, fears, or even physical pain, this process can bring resolution in a way that feels natural and freeing. Many of my clients say they leave feeling lighter, more peaceful, and with a new understanding of themselves. You deserve that kind of healing. You deserve to feel better. and I would be honored to hold that space for you. You can book a session with me at therealhealinginstitute.com.
We are all born with gifts that we are meant to use to improve the world. Join me, Vicki Todd, and Dr. Pat on Shine Delusion Shine, the radical art of dreaming beyond boundaries, each fourth Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. Shine Delusion Shine is a springboard to believing, dreaming, and thinking beyond the ordinary, and a catalyst to living a more fulfilling, destiny-driven life. For more information, visit vickiworldart.com.
Have you ever faced a situation where you weren't quite sure how to handle it with poise, confidence, and grace? Of course you have. We all have. Well, tune into the Change Mastery Show with me, John J. Murphy. Together, my co-host, Dr. Pat, and I will introduce you to a different way to think about change, not as something to fear or resist, but as a gift. Join us the second Wednesday of every month at 11 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. Subscribe, share, and start your journey to mastery at johnjmurphy.org.
Are you ready to break free from blocks and trauma and step into true healing? Michelle Sinclair is a divine healer and spiritual. Hello, I'm Michelle.
We are all
Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. What an exciting show. John, before we go on and we talk about the toolkit and other things, can you please tell people how they find out more about you, also some of the classes and courses you're teaching?
Sure. Well, I'm on social media as author John J. Murphy. That's the easiest. There's a lot of John Murphys. So author John J. Murphy, I should pop up. I have a YouTube channel, author John J. Murphy, with over 200 short clips on a lot of what we're talking about and many other things, including some meditations, just mindset changes, change mastery. My website's johnjmurphy.org. And you can find my email through all of that. And I welcome people to reach out to me. I do what I can to respond timely. So with that,
Yeah.
you said something before break
Yeah,
about
yeah.
the real takeaway is oxygen. I'd back up even before that and say the real takeaway here starts with mindset.
Thank you.
As soon as somebody says I can't, they're already on the sidelines, if not in the bleachers. They're just not in the game. So the minute you start hearing yourself say, I can't do that, I'm too old, or, I've got this bad knee, or I've got, wrong. I broke my knee along with a whole bunch of other bones, and I was out skiing last week in Colorado. I had a disc removed and my spine fused with my hip and was on a plane 3 days later to teach a 5-day course out in California. And then another 5-day course the following week in Boston, and then another 3-day course in California, 3 weeks in a row after a fusion. And the doctors thought, what? But it's mind over matter. I was told in high school I could never play football again after running my foot through a lawnmower. Not intentionally, of course.
Yeah.
And this is a world-renowned surgeon involved in discovering and inventing artificial joints, things like that. And after 10 days in the hospital and 10 hours of surgery, he said, I'm sorry, your football days are over. And 2 years later, I'm playing at Notre Dame.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm talking here about mind over matter. And when your mind is letting go of toxic thinking and negativity. It's where it all starts. And with that open mind, you can discover all kinds of things to feed your body, to take care of your vehicle, so to speak. Um, and a lot of them aren't really that expensive. For example, I talked a little bit about electroceutical. The body is more electrical than it is chemical. And a lot of our solutions with drugs and nutritions and things like that are chemical, right? But electroceutical is a way to cleanse your body at the molecular level, getting rid of molecular waste that's trapped in the body. I have a device, a couple actually, one's called Beamer. It's out of Liechtenstein, and it's BEMER, which stands for Bioelectromagnetic Energy Regulation. And essentially, you hook up for 8 minutes a day, twice a day if you can, and it completely, what it can do to your blood flow at the molecular level is incredible. And then a new company formed called Centropics, and they have a competitive device called the Cloud with a K, Kloud. I have a Cloud, and it's 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 another phenomenal way, 15 minutes a day, to just flush your body of toxins at the micro level. Now, here's the thing: these are not cheap. They're $4,000 to $7,000. However, you can just simply put your bare feet on the ground 20 minutes a day and get flooded with electrons from the earth, which improve your blood circulation, reduce inflammation. You can do it for free. Put your bare feet on the ground for 20 minutes a day. And guess what? Stop and think about it. Who does that? When's the last time you walked around barefoot daily for 20 minutes? No flip-flops, no sandals. And the answer to that in many cases is, I grew up in Michigan. Nobody's
Yeah.
walking around barefoot on the earth right now in Michigan. I can assure you of that. So it's called earthing. You can certainly AI or Google that, earthing, or it's grounding. And here's the thing. I'm grounded right now. You say, what, are you sitting on the planet with your bare feet, John? And the answer is no, but I'm barefoot. And I am on this. You can see the
Yeah.
wire.
Yeah.
And what is that? That's an earthing product. And by the way, people are flooded with electromagnetic radiation every day now, and that affects the body significantly. That's wireless technology, 5G, 4G, all these Gs. And the body doesn't know it wasn't designed for that initially. So there's a lot of people going through adaptation. Some people have even died because they're so sensitive to it. By grounding, you are essentially blocking it because the earth is full of electrons, and when you touch it with your skin, your body is flooded. What do electrons do? They neutralize free radicals in the body. Free radicals cause all kinds of
Mm.
problems. It improves blood flow, reduces inflammation, clears up your thinking. Guess what? There's bed sheets you can plug in. And I sleep grounded all night long. So I'm not grounding 20 minutes a day. I'm grounding like
Yeah.
20 hours a day.
Yeah.
So
This is part of what we talked about when we talked about the holistic toolkit, and I just want to say something to all of you out there. When you go do the research on this, there are people that have these devices that will even rent them to you. So get out there and look because they're out there. I know Mary Jane Mack is releasing out oh my God, I'm going to not remember it, but it's an electromagnetic device that does a lot of that because see these practitioners, John, know the importance of this and they know that the market will come down in price. But in the meantime, how do you make it accessible to somebody that's has a challenge? So in the toolkit, we have to pay attention. You mentioned mind. My friend with the whole I can't, I knew in 10 seconds there was nothing I was going to be able to say. I just wasn't going to be able to say it. But now I'm going to have to go downstairs and talk to Linda about the exercise program she wants to do. That's not going to get her where we're talking about. So, what else can we share with people? How about the spirit nature of this? You mentioned meditation. I find meditation was one of the hardest things for me to do until I did it, until I stopped telling myself it was hard.
yeah,
I think I watched the Tina Turner movie, and I think
Yeah.
that's what got me going on it. But let's talk about how we integrate the body, the mind, the essence of who we are.
Well, here's something to think about. When you are exercising, what's going on in your mind? Are you stressing about something you have going on at work? Is your mind somewhere else? Are you watching TV? Are you looking at something on your program? Or are you shutting all of that blue light stuff off, all of that electromagnetic radiation stuff off? And are you, while you're exercising, whatever it is you're doing, thinking about your breathing, visualizing your body growing stronger, visualizing your body repairing itself, healing? What's going through your mind while you're exercising? Guess what the answer to that is in many cases? I'm not thinking about, if anything, I'm thinking about how much my knees hurt, or my ankles hurt. This is why the mind is so important. And meditation is a way to bring calm, not just to the mind, but the mind influences the body. The body's neutral. The body responds to the mind. So if the mind is agitated, if the mind's got a lot of toxic thinking and negativity going on, the body's going to respond. The body's neutral. If you start to realize the body's neutral, but at the cellular level, it's listening to the inner voice. It's listening to the story you're telling yourself.
Mhm.
And if that story isn't, I'm growing stronger, I'm healing, I'm enthusiastic, I feel fit, and I'm not all this negative self-talk, that's a game changer
Mm.
right there. And that
Yeah.
doesn't cost you a thing. There's an old proverb, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I use that all the time in my books and my teachings. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Guess what? Most students aren't ready. They're not paying attention. They're resistant. Oh, I can't do that, or that doesn't make any sense, or they're full of criticism and resistance and judgment. They're not ready. So they're not going to be the ones who are looking into things they can do to feel a whole lot better about themselves, their bodies, their life, their careers. They're going through life with the brakes on.
Yeah. Part of this too, John, if you could talk to this for a minute, we don't realize that there is a system operating even if we can't see it. And most systems we can't see. Unless you're a programmer or you're going to map or blueprint things out, we have this miracle of a body. We really do. And we hear stories every day of what people have done to either repair, just countless stories. And, I want to just talk to you a little bit about explaining and helping people understand these systems so that they know about the possibilities and get rid of the I can'ts or it's too much or I don't know where to start. Because you've rattled off just in this show close to 20 things people can do or change and start. So, how do we put it all together?
Well, I get this excuse a lot. Wow, this sounds like a lot. This stuff's really expensive. Even joining a gym is, it costs me X dollars a month and I have to travel across town to get to the gym. And my answer is no, you don't. No, you don't. Do you have a floor? Do you have a floor? If you have a floor, you can exercise, right? You can get down there and do sit-ups, push-ups, yoga, Pilates. You can stand on the floor and do Tai Chi or Qigong. You can use a floor. It starts in the head, though.
Yeah.
Get it in your head. You can get, I go into the gym. I've got a wonderful gym here, and I use like 3 pieces of 40 pieces of machinery. A couple of dumbbells, all right? And do you have a pair of shoes? Can you walk? Go out and walk at night after dinner. It's a great idea to walk at night after dinner. Or first thing in the morning is not a bad idea either. So it's also when you exercise, not just whether you exercise. And and just little things like do you eat after 6 o'clock p.m. or 7 o'clock p.m.? Okay, these are simple things that don't cost anything. Meditation costs you nothing, right? So
Right.
you can start with some very walking around barefoot if you're in a place that's warm. I live in Florida, I can do that easily. But You even watch people on vacation at the beach. They're not touching the earth. They're
No,
wearing flip-flops and sandals and shoes. They're not actually touching the earth. And that does a lot of damage to the body. It really does. Now, and if you're not in a warm place where you can actually walk around on wet grass and sand and things like that, concrete, but not asphalt. Asphalt doesn't work. It's got too much rubber. So think of it as insulation. But if you can't do that, for $100 you can buy a grounding mat.
Mhm.
And if you sit in the office all day, kick your shoes off and ground while you're working. It's so simple,
It
Dr. Pat. A
is.
lot of these
Yeah,
things.
it is.
Um,
The best invention I think ever made was these stretch bands. But you brought up something, and I want to talk about it before the end of the show. Somebody inputs and outputs. Let's talk about it because coaches of mine used to say garbage in, garbage out. And, it took me a lot of years. I don't even know what that means. But there are inputs and outputs. Cause and effect made its fame in the Matrix movie. So, can we talk a little bit about some of that? And I know you have a diagram to share.
Yeah, let me pull that up real quick. I'm going to share a tool. It's here.
I love diagrams.
Yes. So here it is. So this is called an IPO diagram, and it's not initial public offering, which a lot of people in business might think. It's input, process, output. It's a tool I've used for many years, helping companies and people get better results. And it works backwards, really. We start looking at our outputs, our why factors. And now we could look at our outputs in terms of relationships we have with people, the amount of joy we feel, the amount of inner peace we feel, our financial situation, and certainly our physical and mental and emotional situations. So if you think about what does true success mean to a person, well, I want to feel great. I want to feel joyful. I want to feel at peace. I want to feel confident. I want to have wonderful, loving relationships and no bitterness. I want to have a whole lot of money, a certain amount, whatever. I want to travel the world and do what I want. I want freedom. If your vision, let's just say 5 years out, is this ideal, beautiful, incredible life, and you're not there now, guess what? It's because of the inputs. So when you start thinking, well, in order for me to manifest my dreams, my vision, I need to know what the inputs are. In seventh grade algebra, you learn something called the transfer function, which is y is a function of x. It's listed here on the bottom. What we reap is what we sow. So if I'm not reaping what I want, it's because I'm not sowing the right seeds, if you will. So now we start looking at the critical X factors, and I've already said I think the most critical one of all is mindset. What's going on in your mind? There are other inputs like what are you eating? Are you eating a lot of greens? Are you eating a lot of plant-based nutritions? That doesn't mean you don't have a steak or a burger from time or fish from time to time. But what's the balance of your diet look like? What are you drinking? Okay. I'm a big fan of mushroom protein. There's all kinds of incredible scientific evidence these days of very healthy mushrooms. Most of them are things people never heard of. I'm not talking about mushrooms you buy at the produce section at the store. I'm talking about mushroom powders that you can buy
Mm.
online or at the store that I put in my smoothie. I put them in my coffee. I'm having mushrooms every day, and the benefits are significant. What other inputs are there? We talked about nutrition, of course, and fitness, different forms of fitness. Sleep. We haven't really spent any time on sleep, but it's absolutely essential, especially for the brain, which regenerates at night. And so shut off the blue light a couple hours before you go to bed. Put the TV, put your phone in the other room. Just don't you don't realize what the blue light does from a television. By the way, it depends on what you're watching on TV too. To make it
Yeah.
even worse, if you're watching the dreadful news or you're watching some violent show or some horrific thing, that's not helping you sleep better. So the critical inputs, we talked about electroceuticals, things you can do like simply grounding, oxygen, just meditation and getting into a more peaceful mindset. And meditation you mentioned is difficult. It's because you're not trained to keep your mind present. Your conscious mind wants to wander past and future. So one way to get your mind present is to just focus on a body part, like your heart, and visualize your heart just relaxing. And then there are mantras, there are sounds you can use. I use Taoist teachings, Taoist sounds, and the sound for the heart is the sound ah. Like when the doctor says, stick your tongue out and say ah, and you'd take very deep breaths and you just let out this long, slow ah, visualizing your heart relaxing, growing stronger, performing perfectly in your whole cardiovascular system, your arteries, your capillaries, your microvessels, 26,000 miles long in one body. That's going around the earth 4 times. Your microvessels are essential. And the problem is that as we get, by the way, the heart cannot pump blood through these microvessels. It'd have to be the size of the Pentagon or something. It'd have to be huge. So how does blood get through the microvessels? Through pulsing. And they pulse, but as we get older, they slow down and they don't pulse like they used to. So how can you improve pulsing at the capillary, at the micro level? Put your feet on the earth. Put your feet on the earth. It's that simple. If you have the resources to get electroceutical device, use that. Because now the nutrients you put in your body are actually able to get to the cells that are starving for them. The oxygen is able to get to the brain and the rest of the cells in the body. The problem, a lot of people's bodies are clogged up, so to speak, because they're not managing their inputs well. So the punchline here, Dr. Pat, is a tool as simple as this, is if you're not reaping what you want, it's because you're not sowing what you need. Examine the inputs and narrow it down. And this is what, Dr. Deming and many other experts over the years have called knowledge. True knowledge is knowing the relationship between X and Y. If I know the cause and effect relationship between these things, and if I change this, I change this. If I know that, that's knowledge. That's not hypothesis. That's not assumption. That is true knowledge. That's game changing.
It is. John, thank you so much for today. And I love this diagram, by the way. You break it down. And what I want to say to the audience is we have mentioned so many things. And so don't let your mind go to the place of, oh, so many things. What you can do is identify something you've heard today and simply do it. If it's something to stop doing, you simply stop doing it. Now, we're not telling you how often, but we're giving you, especially John has given you a pathway, a map, so to speak. And that's what I love about this show, John, and what you've done is because we do have the freedom to choose. And that's exactly what we're talking about today. Thank you so much for everything. How do people find you one more time?
Yeah, johnjmurphy.org is the website. You can also find me on YouTube, author John J. Murphy, LinkedIn, John J. Murphy Mystic, Facebook, author John J. Murphy. Easy to find, and I hope you will, and you let me know. Maybe give Dr. Pat and I ideas on additional shows you'd like us to, topics you'd like us to talk about on this show. It covers a lot of ground.
Yes, it does. John, thank you so much for everything. And for all of you out there, these shows, and especially the shows right here with John, they're about helping you, as we said today, live your life vibrantly, no matter what age. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Change Mastery Show with John J. Murphy, an opportunity to uncover, explore, and experience the path of transformation and illumination. Join Dr. Pat and me on the second Wednesday of every month at 11 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. Never miss an episode. Subscribe, like, and share with your friends. Connect with me on social media. And for questions, comments, or to explore my books, and services, visit johnjmurphy.org. Until next time, be the change you want to see in the world.